There was once a land where the weather was very, very strange. There were awful heat waves in some parts, and in others terrible storms and floods. Scientists said it was being caused by too much CO2, which went up into the sky when the grown-ups used energy. They said the CO2 was getting dangerous. Its effects were happening faster than they had thought. Some places could even disappear under the sea, and it was the children of the land who'd have to live with the horrible consequences. The grown-ups realized they had to do something. They discovered that over 40% of the CO2 was coming from ordinary everyday things like keeping houses warm and driving cars, which meant if they made less CO2, maybe they could save the land for the children.
Is there a happy ending?
It's up to us how the story ends. See what you can do. Search online for ACT on CO2.
My friends, it is November 23rd, 2009. This is the most important video concerning man-made climate change that we've ever made. This is one of the most important video press releases that I have ever released. Last week, hackers broke into a university computer system in England, the chief UN Climate Center, the main source of information they quote in their different reports. And they released thousands of emails. We've now had a chance to read over these emails. It's in the Associated Press, it's in Reuters, the BBC is covering it. It is a huge international story now known as ClimateGate. And we've had a chance to go over these documents, and it only confirmed what we previously knew. Al Gore, 2 years ago, got caught claiming that carbon dioxide goes up and then temperatures go up. He actually flipped the graphs. Temperature goes up and then carbon dioxide goes up. Different universities, and some of the ones named in these emails, have been caught faking temperature readings from buoys and weather stations around the world. They always claim it's an accident. This chief United Nations scientist, Phil Jones, over the last 5 years has refused to release any of his data, though it's being used for the UN to call for this global climate tax and to ban big televisions and to put tax on beef and taxes on having more than one child, total control of our society, and they won't release the source data. And that's one of the main reasons that the hackers obviously went into this system and got these emails, because they wanted the climate data. They wanted to force it to be publicly published, not just a boiled down synopsis, because so much of what is in these reports put out by this university and others has already been proven to be a fraud. And when scientists come out and say, well, your information is a fraud, and we have the actual weather readings from the sources you quoted, they say, shut up, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're paid by the oil companies, we're not going to let you look at our data. Now we know what happened, and this is so huge. And I'm going to go over the spin they're putting out to try to cover this up, because if this story in full gets out to the public, the global climate tax is over. And we're going to play some clips coming up of the new EU president and others admitting that the global climate tax is the key to global government, global governance. These are quotes from them. The global government is here. It was Enron came up with the idea of the carbon tax in the mid-90s with Al Gore. It's a scam. And it has nothing to do with the environment. And they're on the verge of passing this in Copenhagen next month and here in the United States with the climate bill now in the Senate that's passed the House. So this couldn't have come out at a more important time. So here are a few key points that I've listed here that I want to go over. This is ClimateGate, number one. Number two, the emails are real. Number three, all the key UN data comes from these fraudulent sources. They would not show the public their data. This is scientific fraud and persecution of scientists that disagreed with them. That's also in the emails, how to persecute, how to blacklist, how to fire people, how to shut people down. I mean, this is criminal racketeering. We need a real investigation of this. Why the fraud? What are the goals of this system? And to use a Star Wars analogy, these several thousand emails are the Death Star plans. But having the Death Star plans is only part of it. We now have to carry out an attack in the info war with this information. We're going to have full reports, in fact they're already up, at prisonplanet.com and infowars.com detailing all of this. This is a worldwide tax, a fraud against you and your family. You need to educate yourselves immediately and then educate your friends, your family, your neighbors, your elected representatives, your public servants, because this fight is all coming to a head right now. I also want to salute the hackers. They did something the police, MI5, the FBI wouldn't do. There have been Freedom of Information Act requests in the U.S. and similar requests in England that have never released this data. They're scared to release it. It's now public. So I salute the hackers. I don't know who you are, but you're white hat hackers of the greatest epic level. I absolutely bow to you with total respect. Thank you so much, because this is also an example for future hackers to really do important work. This is beautiful. This is epic, and I salute you. All right, briefly, this is ClimateGate. This can bring down their whole system, because all the other fraud they've been caught in, they always say is an accident. They also have the fraud of saying there's a total consensus. Not one scientist doesn't believe that carbon dioxide is deadly poison and that we're all going to die if we don't tax it or ban it or restrict it when humans exhale 5.5 pounds of it. So they're also saying there's total consensus, even though 30+ thousand scientists sent letters to Congress, and most of the scientists that signed on to the UN document said they were only consulted, that they don't even agree with it. So that's another fraud. But the issue here is the emails are real. Read the Associated Press. Read Reuters. Read the articles where they've called these scientists that are in these emails, these climatologists, and talked to them about it. And they've said, well, yes, we were hacked, and those are our emails, but they're being interpreted wrong. But see, there's a separate media spin right now where the press is saying, well, we don't know if the emails are real. No. The university admits they were hacked, several thousand emails were stolen, and they're now spinning, saying, oh, well, this is being taken out of context. Quotes by Phil Jones to other climatologists writing to colleagues about graphs showing climate statistics over the last millennium. He alludes to techniques used by a fellow scientist to hide the decline. And it goes on to say, from 61, for Keith to hide the decline in temperature since 1961. So over and over again, hide the decline, how to manipulate the data. And so understand, they're admitting they were hacked, and they're now countering the emails saying, well, you're misinterpreting what I said. They themselves, because the media contacted them quickly, now they're not talking to the media. They figured out how they screwed up. They're going, well, I didn't mean that when I said it, or, well, you're misinterpreting what I said. They've now, the source has now confirmed these emails. Go read them for yourself on Infowars.com or PrisonPlanet.com. There's thousands of them. We're trying to go through them right now. The worst stuff's coming out every hour. Write your own articles, post your own blogs, dig through it. This is a community research project. This is so exciting. So we have that going on. The emails are real. All the key data. This particular university that nexused in with the Goddard Space Center in the U.S. and others, the Climate Research Unit, a leading global research center on climate change run by Professor Phil Jones. He is sourced and quoted everywhere as the one that gives all the data to the UN, and then all the other scientific firms funded by the government, both private and governmental, then just agree with it. And then it's heresy if you question it. So that's going on. All their key data comes from this. This is the bottom card in the house of cards of the first domino, and it's now falling. And it's so essential that everyone get out there ahead of this media spin, because the media, even though the people that wrote the emails are admitting they wrote them, the media is trying to spin it saying, well, we don't know if those emails are real. And I predict the establishment's now going to insert fake emails in the coming days to try to disease the entire honeypot so that the media can then come out and try to discredit it. Kind of like it's admitted that Bush didn't go to a lot of his Air National Guard duties, but then some fake documents were put out by Karl Rove that CBS picked up, then discrediting the whole thing. So look for that trick. We know how they operate. Obviously, this is scientific fraud. They've already been proven that their data was wrong. Now we know it was on purpose. But another big issue when you read these emails is, how do we get this guy fired? How do we have different scientific groups blackball this person? How do we remove their funding? How do we get this journal suspended? How do we stop these people from being able to submit to scientific journals? So this is a giant collusion, almost like the Catholic Church trying to stop Galileo from, when he noticed that the moons of Jupiter were orbiting, he did mathematic calculations and could tell that the Earth was actually orbiting the sun. So we have that going on. So incredible intimidation. They need to be raided. Their hard drives need to be grabbed. Their filing cabinets, their communiques, because they're pushing for a global government, global tax through all of this. An international system to control our lives. We're going to play that Von Rompuy clip here.
2009 is also the first year of global governance, with the establishment of the G20 in the middle of the financial crisis. The climate conference in Copenhagen is another step towards the global management of our planet. Our mission, our presidency, is one of hope, supported by acts and by deeds.
You look at the new head of the European Union, he is on record saying first year of global governance through the Copenhagen Treaty and the carbon tax. He's also quoted as calling for global management of the planet through the environmental crises. That's why the big banks, JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, the Bank of England, all the money people are funding the climate change system, because then they get to have a global government that manages and taxes the life-giving gas, carbon dioxide, that plants breathe. So we need a real investigation. And we know why there's all this fraud. We know what their goals are. Listing what plants breathe, what all human activity produces, as a toxic waste that they can regulate. It gives them total control over every facet of our lives. And they're in the news saying that they're going to decide what technologies can be developed, what technologies are going to be banned. London Guardian, global body needs to direct green technologies, G77 says, developed nations call for UN body to police battle on climate change. So that's going on. We're going to be covering this more in subsequent videos, but the emails, the documents, boil downs of all the other previous fraud, the intimidation of scientists, it's all on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. If we force this out into the public, which is already starting to happen, and expose the spin and show people what's really happening, we can blow this thing sky high in the info war. This is the equivalent of Bothans stealing the Death Star plans. Now we have to use these plans. I hope you understand the level of this. They admit the emails are real. This is meant to set up a world government in their own words. This is all being decided on right now. This is a godsend. This is one of the greatest blows against the New World Order I've ever seen. Last week, it passed out of committee in the House. They have 311 votes. It's sure to pass a strong audit the Fed bill. The Senate tried to strip it. Some House members tried to strip it. They failed there. We're having victory after victory after victory. And my film, Fall of the Republic, details how the banks are setting up this climate dictatorship, this dictatorship over resources. So please watch that film. We're going to put a link to it up in the corner here on YouTube to watch it in full for free. Give it to everyone you know. This film cost me $200,000 to make. You can buy the DVD at Infowars.com if you want to support us. But to all of you out there, this is not pearls before swine. This will annihilate the New World Order and their agenda. This has caught them red-handed, and they need to be brought to justice, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. Now, the rest is up to you. The ball's in your court. Please take action. ClimateGate. It can bring them down.